We are back for part 2. Now, obviously, this is going to be a bit of an abrupt start since the last episode I literally just paused the conversation with Joy right in the middle. So, if you need to go back and listen to maybe the past 10 or 15 minutes for a refresher and then jump to this episode, it's not a terrible idea. In this continued conversation with Joy Hanford, a Midwest gal much like myself, who now lives in Portugal, we get into the topics of the complexities of learning about and navigating the bureaucracies in other countries, art as a form of grieving and processing world events like a lockdown and the experience of a global pandemic in another country, starting a business during that global pandemic, and most of all, defining success for ourselves. Yes, it is a heavy one, my friends, but once again, it's interwoven with a healthy dose of dry humor and sarcasm, because apparently that's a Midwestern trait, making jokes amidst heavy subjects to help get you through them. And once again, there's a bit of adult language, so hit pause and grab the headphones right now before your hands are covered in mud, if you need to. We'll get into all of that right after a quick word from our sponsors. Today's episode is brought to you by the Rosenfield Collection of Functional Ceramic Art. The collection exists as an online source for research and inspiration, featuring photos of objects made by over 1,000 artists. The images are high quality and can be used with no permission required, making them a great source for students and teachers. To find out more, visit www.rosenfieldcollection.com. A special thank you to the Archie Bray Foundation for sponsoring this episode of The Maker's Playbook. The Bray Clay business is your best source for Bray Epoxy, a 2-part moldable epoxy intended for post-firing repairs. Working like clay, it's easy to shape, texture, fill gaps, and recreate missing parts. Bray Epoxy is sold in tan, white, and black base colors, with a 9-color kit that will allow you to perfectly disguise your repair. Order anytime online at archiebrayclay.com. Now, on with the show. Welcome to The Maker's Playbook, the show where we talk all about what it's really like to make a living from the things you make. I'm your host, seasoned entrepreneur of 14 years, Rebecca Ikis Kara. Because, I imagine obviously there's plenty of bureaucracy everywhere in the world to begin with, some more than others, but also then in a UNESCO World Heritage Site, getting more complicated.
Oh, God. You don't know. You can't pick paint. You can't. Everything is controlled. I had to apply with an architect to have a pottery studio.
Well, it's not like you were opening
No, it's a dusty-ass goddamn normal pottery studio, but I can't have a gas kiln, for instance. They don't.
That's what I mean. It's like if you were opening we're going to paint canvases and drink wine, there's a lot less infrastructure you need to open a thing like that.
I have definitely had to invite my entire neighborhood into my pottery studio. And it's like, see this glowing red thing? I swear it's not going to burn down your house. That's from 17. Go fuck yourself. Like, I promise. Oh, even like the oldest building in my city is around the corner from me. It's intact from like 14 something. What? So my building is really cute, and it was a brothel first for a long time, and then it was a warehouse of fabric. Old men still walk by and they're like, hey, little lady, do you know what this was? And I was like, yeah, I'm not here to hear about what you were doing, sir. On a Tuesday, I'm making pots, and so I'm happy you passed by. Thank you for coming, but in Portuguese. And so my street is this really weird street in this amazing cultural place. My street was not the nice place in town. Lovely ladies walk by now kind of clutching their pearls, and they're like, I wasn't allowed to come on this street. And I said, I know, it's just a pottery lady now. But we have a Michelin star restaurant opening around like literally next door to me. It's all Airbnbs now. I can't describe to you how quick the gentrification is, which is why my entire body of work is based around an abandoned building's window. Ooh, legacy.
This was one of the other questions.
Oh my God, someone. I'm not going to cry about someone wanting to talk about my nerdy pots.
Because Kat was asking about the process for your work that looks like cement and also a bit of an explanation for your Mourners series.
Oh,
so
that's sad. Okay, let's do nerdy shit first. So my pottery is based around an abandoned window, and my entire city is made of granite. And so my goal was to make my pottery look exactly like my street, because the street where my pottery studio is on, like I said, people that still live on my street were born in the house. Their parents died in the house. Their grandparents were born in the house. Their grandparents died in the house. I have some of the greatest neighbors of all time, and they call me neighbor. They call me vizinha, which is you don't do that. Like, you don't call your husband, your nephew's wife, your niece. You don't do that. There's always the delineation of you are from outside inside. You are from an outsider that's come in. So I was working in ethnographic pottery, and I'm really honored that I was able to train in a dying form of pottery, which has been awarded the UNESCO Immaterial World Heritage Award. So there is an UNESCO site or ruin, or in Europe, you can have a place, be an UNESCO World Heritage site. Like, we promise we're going to preserve this place because it's special. So I live there. In addition, last year, my colleagues were awarded Immaterial Award for a piece of pottery that we're all trained to make. There are only 4 of us that can make it. It's called the Cantarinhas dos Numerados, which is this insane piece of pottery that people used to use as a engagement present. It was literally the engagement ring. The man who wanted to marry the woman would go to the father, and he would say, I want to marry your daughter. And the dad would be like, I guess. And he would go to the potter, and he would go to the potter, and the potter would be like, absolutely not. I'm not making that. It's really hard. But the potter could make it. It's this form that is so insane. I would rival Korean moon jar level hard. It is rough because it's a full circle belly on a tiny foot, like a really diminutive foot. So we're talking like diminutive foot, gigantic round belly, neck, like collared and neck, flare like a head. So it looks like the body of a woman, but it's a kentorinha. A kentorinha is what you go to get water. So it's a form that is made so you don't spill the water when you go to collect it. I mean, you have to understand, Portugal was under a fascist dictatorship until 1974. It built its government. It was officiated between 74 and 79. The first thing that they did when they got out of the fascist dictatorship, and we're talking places did not have electricity or infrastructure, was vote for education for all and healthcare for everyone. Because there are still people who were not afforded above 4th grade by the government. You had to pay to go to school above 4th grade. Imagine an entire group of people, entire generations who were literally at their job making pottery at 11. Hello? What? It's a different world. And this is living history. This is 1974.
Right. Yeah, that's not that. I mean, my parents were born in the 50s. Sorry, Mom and Dad. I just outed you.
I love your...
Like, they were married by that time.
So this concept of a ring in where I am from wasn't for everybody. So you would go to the potter. You would ask the potter, hey, I want to marry this girl. And he's like, are you sure? Like, a little bit of hazing. I don't want to talk about Portugal and hazing. This whole thing. Let's move on. So you would go. You would ask the potter. The potter would say, yes, I'll make it for you. And it is a gigantic vessel, throne, decorated in stamps, like ceramic stamps. So it's like 3D stamps. What do we call it? Embossed, almost embroidered. Then decorated with red iron oxide and mica, milled mica, once fired. Gorgeousness. The main body of the vessel would be at the wedding for everyone to give an offering to the bride and the groom. So coins, money, etc. Then you would have a secondary situation, which is a plate, a replica of about 6 centimeters of the body of the vessel below it. And so you gotta make it again. And that would hold the dowry jewelry from the parents. And then at the top, of course, we have a dove because iconography is everywhere. And the dove means the same thing all the time: fertility, conception, the immaculation, and then 3 loaves of bread for, I don't know, I think like your cousin Jerome, your uncle Sven, the Father, Son, the Holy Spirit. We know what the bread's for. So you have the Father, Son, the Holy Spirit. You have the Eucharist, you have the fertility, you have the dove. It's not for peace, it's for babies. And that would be
good Catholic weddings.
100%. This is post-Inquisition, darling. But they found them as of the 12th century. Same form. We make it the exact same way. So it was really special. So when I arrived in Guimarães, I arrived during the capital of culture. We got the capital of culture. It's a really big deal in Europe. I arrived for that. I was like, I'm an artist. And I was like, but you weren't born here. You have to be born here. And I was like, but I'm an artist. And they're like, okay, that's great. You have to be born here. And I was like, okay, cool. And so I waited a little bit and I could see pottery all the time, like this form, this thing. And I was like, I do that. I want to do that. I learned this language. I can do that thing. I want to do that thing. And I'm not joking. It took 2 years. 2 years, every 3 months, I would go to the Câmara Municipal and I would go to where I saw the pots. I would go to anyone and I would say, I do this. Can I do this? And they would be like, sure, we'll take your name. We'll take it. We'll take your name. And they would take my name. And then finally, like we're talking 2016, I walk in and I was like, the potter was there. I'd never gotten her. And I was like, hi. And she was like, hi, who are you? And I was like, hi, you don't know me. Hi, I do this. And she was like, what? I was like, I do this. I make pottery. Hi, I do this. And I still had no wheel. So I moved in 2010.
So 6 years later.
I had to sell everything. And it was an economic crisis. So it's not like I could have said like, oh, I'd like to go ahead and completely cripple us financially to do something that is not considered art here and or has any value whatsoever. I wasn't hired by the factories. I tried. I would have worked shoulder to shoulder, like no problem. I have made a Portuguese salary since I moved here. I've never made an American salary. And it's much different, but I have no problem with that. I have all of my needs met. Can I go to America? No. It's so expensive for me to go to my home. It's financially almost inconceivable. It's about every 6 years I go back. And it's so expensive that I go, why am I here? I love you, but also I'm going to have to work so hard to get. But obviously this has no value because you are invaluable and I adore you. And but also please don't eat that. No, children, don't eat that. Oh, yay, that's a cookie. Why is that cookie $6? Like, I can't breathe. Like, it's constantly the cycle. So I was able to run into the potter who had been worked with the last potter. So there was like a pottery tradition in a family. He did not have an apprentice. He was able to meet and do what's called a formação. A formação is a training program. There is no academic pottery in Portugal. It's taught, clay is in somebody, I'm going to email about this, but leave it in, please. Clay is taught as a sculptural tool in the fine arts programs, but it is not taught as an art form because it's not seen as an art form. It's seen as a craft. And we all know the big blanket statement conversation about the difference between art and craft. And the only reason we're still having this fight is because of Nazis, and Bauhaus closed because they weren't going to play with the Nazis, and Bauhaus could have changed everything, and Black Mountain College did their best, and we can keep going with all of the refugees who are the reason that I am the person that I am today. God bless them for coming to the United States. And everybody did their best, but, it's a hard fight when you can get bazillions for a Rothko. Word. It's a hard fight. So I was able to corner this potter and she was like, I need you, like desperate. And I was like, okay. And I was able to train with her and I was really, I'm still so privileged. Her name is Annabelle Elvish and she has stopped working because she was so tired and burnt out. She made the same thing for 20 years and we're really lucky. I was able to train with her and I'm immensely privileged that I can make this form of pottery. I was not afforded the UNESCO certification. That's fine. My colleague Maria Fernanda Braga was, along with Annabella Elvish, and I am so proud of them. And so I always defer to them when somebody needs it. I'm like, this is where you go. This is who you talk to. Yes, I can do it. Like, you want me to show you? Like, you want me to like prove? Like, wait, hold on. Wait. Why are we having a pissing contest? Like, I know. Like, I can't. Okay, great. Okay, bye. Thank you so much. Like it's always very like, oh, you can. Oh, yeah.
Are you sure?
It's
So do you think she only, so by happenstance, well, actually, it's similar to what you were saying in the beginning, even with going to the studios in Indiana or Penland or anything, like showing up, showing up.
dedication, not leaving.
And then she was saying she needed you because she was the only person producing for so long that
she needed help.
Purely from a workload standpoint, she needed someone moderately trained who could then learn this next thing.
Moderately trained.
I mean, you weren't trained in that form. You know what I was saying.
Moderately trained, darling.
In her mind.
No, she had no idea. She probably thought I was going to pinch a pot, but I don't know. Like, it was before the big arc. So I went in, I trained with her. It took me 3 days to make a bad one. And that was weird. It had been a long time since it had taken me so long to learn a form because it was so hard. And I kept having just a resistance. It's the same way in clay. It's how I teach my students. I think it's how a lot of people teach students. It's like, that's your brain telling you you can't, but why can't you? Like, what's your resistance? You just need to work past that resistance. Slow down, take your foot off the pedal and focus. Like, slow. That's all I tell people. Breathe, water, control. Breathe, water, control.
And actually 3 days doesn't sound that long when
it was so
a
hard.
Revered. I just mean like a revered form with so much history and so much tradition. You have to get it right. It's not like you get to put your own spin on this thing.
No, you have to make it exactly correct. It's UNESCO. You have to produce the thing. So I was really lucky that I was able to do it. Unfortunately, I wasn't able or offered a job full time. I did not like their piece rate salary. I was actually quite like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And they know I'm a bit of a troublemaker, and we wave when we see each other in the streets, but that's not for me. It's not, I am the other. I am the person. I have to be like, okay, I don't agree, but I was able to work with the museum system. So I was able to do ethnographic pottery. And because I was able to train in the form, I didn't have to pay to train in the form. It was something I was awarded. I was gifted that privilege, and I find it to be a privilege to have worked with Annabella Elvish and to learn this form of pottery. After which I did a lot of school tours. So many children. To the point where children in my town will be like, I can make a cantarina, and they mean like a little nugget. A 4-minute nugget on the wheel. And that's okay. I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's actually a good thing to get the name, to get this pottery form. It exists in the lexicon. It exists in your memory. Oh, I worked on the wheel and I did that. And the tour is still going strong. I think it's a really amazing outreach program that was developed by Dr. Catarina Pereira and Marta Silva. I think that these things are really profound and exceptional, and I do only consider it a privilege, but there are 2 hellscapes that I don't like working in, and one of them is a library. And one of them is a museum. And you think like, oh my God, I want to work in a museum. No, you don't. Oh my God, I want to work at like, no, you do not want to work at the library. Like, you don't want to work in these places. They're just really bureaucratic. They're really political. There is no money. Everything is fought for. Everybody is constantly margining for that position. So in 2019, foreshadowing, 2019, I was like, I'm done. This is expensive money. And since that fateful day when I dropped $20 and someone picked it up and I only had $280, I had been squirreling cash. And I mean squirreling, like saving. Miserly would be the right word for me. Like purely Dickensian, like you don't need that. We've got food at home. How dare, like lovely life, but really saving as much money as I could. And I was like, fuck it, I'm just going to do it myself. Because it's something I had talked to the museum system about. We have some really great, because of the capital of culture, a lot of programs had been not invented, but incentivized in my town. So We have a lot of museums. We have a lot of spaces that just could be used in other ways, but they're not my nice spaces. It's not mine. It's not my place. I'm not going to Karen my way into it. No one likes a Karen, But I can politely suggest and show you the numbers and point out with my spreadsheet that this could be a good idea. And then it's always, you're foreign. No one's going to want that. Ha. We got locked in our houses for 50 more days than other people did. My city was an epicenter. It was horrific. My neighbors were taken out in body bags. It was awful. I lost 13 people in 1 year, 6 to COVID. And I don't mean I misplaced them. They died at the same time, sometimes multiple per day. Now, that's a fucked up number. And it took like a year and some change. But that's a big fucking number. And it was all in the United States. I would say that the people that I lost here were neighbors. They were people I knew in my building, but we weren't best friends. I knew a lot of people who passed away in my city. A lot of people passed away in my city. What?
Wait,
Yeah.
clarifying.
Clarify.
When you said on, just because I want people to get things straight, when you're talking about, obviously, your town was an epicenter for COVID, and
In Portugal.
we'll get back to the POTS in Portugal, but then also all in the United States in terms of people passing away.
Yeah. So my neighbors were dying. I didn't necessarily know them well enough to be like, these people. I mourned them. I mourned them with my city. We lost a lot of people in Guimarães because we're a big industrial town. So we have a lot of factories. So we had a lot of people moving goods throughout Europe. We had the carnival holidays right before, and a lot of people traveled. And of course, Italy was hit so hard. Our geographic location in Portugal was ideal because we saw Italy, we saw Spain, and then we were like, nope. And our government did it was militant. Like we couldn't leave our house. There were police on every corner. You had to justify, everything had to be justified to leave. There was no personal choice. There was no personal choice. There was only public health. Nothing was personal. I had this one neighbor, she has passed. She has a cold apartment. It's very classic in Portugal, cold apartments. Like it's damp and cold. And it was winter, like we were locked down. It was cold. And so she always would sit outside on this park bench, right outside her apartment in the sun, because her apartment's cold. And there was this viral video, and it went all over that she was literally cussing every word, cussing out the police. Like, I'm not fucking going home. It was the most like, I love you so much. Because there was no one in the streets, but they wouldn't let her. They like forcibly put her back in so that we could all be safe. And no matter what your opinions are, and I really do respect your opinions, this is what happened to me. And I also respect your experience. But I lost a lot of people around me. I lived next to the hospital. They were sequestered. Everyone was sequestered. Anyone that worked at the hospital had to stay at the hospital. They were in military tents behind my house. There was 8-hour lines of ambulances trying to get to the hospital, and we couldn't even help. It was just everything that 2019 was when? The time loop is real because we're all just still processing. And so I was in my house, and had the 2 kids, and I had the husband, and we were going to be fine. And I have a lot of health issues. So like my doctor's like, do not fucking leave the house. They were like, we don't know how this is going to go. You have to be careful. And I didn't leave the house for like 56 days. And then I was like, we're getting ice cream. We broke and got ice cream, but we were fully masked. We went and got ice cream. And then we went to a private park, and we downed the dripping ice cream into our mouths. And then we went home. And all of that said, I was like, fuck this. It's time. It's time to financially sink my family and get back into pottery. I have not financially sunk my family, but very sadly, one of those 13 people was my dad. So my dad died, and he had put away a little bit of money in his will for us to get plane tickets, which was really, really sweet. And so I wasn't able to go. There was no funeral. And so I opened a community pottery studio with my money that I had saved. And speaking of legacy, that plane fare money, which sucked. Didn't like it the whole time, still don't like it. But it got me 2 Amazon wheels. I'm not joking. I started my community pottery studio on those rickety aluminum. They were 150 euros from China, direct from China. Bought them on the same day, got 2 completely different wheels. Completely different. One splash pan leaves, the other splash pan doesn't leave. One foot pedal, one hand crank pedal. They're for children. My father-in-law came down. My father-in-law is a carpenter. He's a marceneiro. He's a carpenter. He makes furniture, and he is really just like a bro and a pal. And he's always liked that his fancy scientist husband married a construction worker. That's me. We've renovated houses together. We're like, he's an asshole, but he's my asshole, that kind of thing. And I love him. And so he came down and I was like, this is exactly what I want. This is all the money that I have. This is exactly what we have to do. And I had to put in like a 2,000 euro floor because the floor was crooked and uneven. And like, what are you going to do? You better put the good floor in. You're going to fall. So I put just all the expenses. I opened a pottery studio and then my husband lost his job. Great. Amazing. Perfect. So I've started a business. We're still wearing masks. And then
so what year? When?
So I rented the pottery studio in December 2020, got the renovation done, and then we locked down again. We had second lockdown, which is like not like Hobbit second breakfast. It's like, oh no, we're doing this again. But because I had rented this pottery studio, I had a lease, I had a business, I had an Amazon, I had all this stuff in place. So I was afforded, and again, I keep using this word because that's exactly what it is. Privilege. So I had the privilege of I had to carry my lease with me every day, like a passport, because I would be stopped constantly. Why are you out of the house? I'm going to work. Where do you work? I work here. What is that? My community pottery studio, where there was one wheel that I had manufactured because I have a bad back. So I had a standing wheel made. That was fun. That's a whole other podcast, Rebecca. João de Fornos, which literally means John of the Kilns. Made me it was oh god. And then it was just me, and I'm locked down, and I am like my husband. This is not before my husband lost his job, so he's teaching college lectures in our living room. My children are like silently standing like bookends. A friend of mine had a traumatic brain injury, and we were worried about. She moves in. Like, talk about pods. Like everyone in America is like, this is my pod, and I was like, well, we are a lily pad. And these are the people that live on it. And every day I left and I went to that pottery studio and I threw and I threw and I threw and I cried and I cried and I made the mourners. And so what are the mourners? The mourners are a large body of pots that I made. They are, in Portuguese, they're called as minhas lágrimas, which means my tears, because they're only made of tears. Literally. Like water for chocolate, made of tears. Like I cried the whole time. I made all of the pots. The pots are very Etruscan. They're very like, where did this come from? They're alien, and they're made of Portuguese clay. They're made of the clay underneath my feet. And it was really important to me to like get my head back together. And all I did was keep my pottery studio has 5 doors that can open, and I kept them open even though we were locked down. And so I wore a mask the entire time. And my neighbors, when they were afforded their time to be able to leave their house, so these are my neighbors around my pottery studio, not around my house, around my pottery studio, when they were able to leave their house and to buy basic necessities, they could stop for just a little bit of time and we could all talk. We could just be social. We could have a moment. Meanwhile, the entire world were watching pottery videos. And they were like, I want to take a pottery class. And I was like, bitch, same. I want to take a pottery class. And then they went, how much is a pottery class? And I was like, really cheap this year, and then a little bit less cheap next year, and then a little bit less cheap next year, because no one had ever done it. It's like saying, I want to go be a machinist here. I want to go sew shoes here. I want to go work at the clothing factories. It is considered factory work. So everybody's in the pandemic, locked in their houses in Portugal, watching TikTok, watching Instagram, finding pottery. It became this, like, everybody, it was international. But I'm over here like, my name is Joy. I am an artist. I happen to work in clay. I also am a physicist. I'm a chemist, and I clean for a living. And I can teach you how to make pottery.
What a weird space to, and weird's a crude word, but I'm not a linguist.
No, it's weird. No, I've never been unweird.
The country, let alone a town where ceramics is famous.
Famous.
But
Sorry.
But it's like not a career choice anyone thinks of, and so no one's ever learned it. I'm not formulating the question properly because it's just
parents freak out when their kids want to do clay. They're like, "What? Go to college?" Well, so did mine. God bless.
Well,
and
yeah,
I was like, "Well, in college."
Same.
It's like the kids.
Same Z's.
It's like that the joke when the kids go to Harvard, they get into Harvard, and then there's always they have clay at Harvard, and then it's like, "Oh, my kid goes to Harvard." Yeah, what'd your kid do? Pottery. That always makes me giggle because, like, we'll get you. No matter where you are, we'll get you.
Shout out to Kathy King.
Hey, Kath. Love you. It's a great program. It's an absolutely great program. Academic pottery is a level of... I will always be grateful for my academic career. I didn't get the BFA. That was the worst critique of my life. I still have nightmares about my crit. And I understand now that I'm no longer a child and an adult that I was a little pissant sack of shit who ran a community pottery studio, showed up every semester, but also had like 17 jobs and responsibilities and couldn't just be the mud rat. I was the mud rat in my pottery studio that I ran that gave me everything that I needed, but I wasn't the mud rat in front of their faces. So I wasn't doing enough for them to prove, the academic loyalty. And yeah, that one time I said Gonzo the Great was my favorite artist in my artist statement. He's a performance artist. How fucking dare you not come at me with like, good job. Because I wasn't, but like I went to IU with Malcolm Mbutu Smith was in his first year teaching when I was there. Tim Mathers, hello. Crystal Boger. I worked for Crystal Boger forever. Rest in peace. She was one of the most amazing sculptors, figurative clay. Google her. She's phenomenal. She was an amazing teacher. Do you have a crack? I will fix your crack. That was her whole job. She handed me a container of vinegar and paintbrush and pencil eraser cut in half. Fix all of my sculptures. I did that forever. Oh my God, it was great. And I just had this false delusion that because I could, you would let me. That's not academia. You got to eat shit, die, and prove. And I didn't do that well enough. And I will own that all day long. And so I walked into my BFA. I'm going to get in the BFA. I'm going to get my BFA. I'm going to move to Europe. I'm going to have these babies, which I had. They're great, but, also a lot of work and put my career
2 out of
back.
3.
2.
I mean, that's a great batting average. I'm just saying.
Thanks, babe.
2 out of 3.
I'm a goal setter. I'm a completer. I complete things.
To bring it back to the Midwest, baseball.
Yeah.
There we go.
Baseball reference.
I'm going to ask you another. We've got one more question from the community that I want to make sure that we get to. It's a big question. I think we've covered parts of it.
Have we covered anything? Because I feel like we haven't.
I'm also acutely aware of that. I think it's almost 1 a.m. for you.
It is.
Okay.
Midnight. I had a coffee. I'm probably not going to sleep for 3 more hours, but you've got stuff to do.
You told me before we hit record you had a coffee, and what I should have followed up with was, how regularly do you drink coffee?
Coffee's my boyfriend.
Oh, I was like, I think this is your first coffee ever. And you're like, yeah, let's go.
No. I don't even want to show you my coffee. My coffee, like accoutrement. And I live in Portugal. The coffee is, Italy makes rocket fuel.
We're samesies.
Makes rocket fuel. Like, I'm not here to play, but like Portuguese, like, we fucking colonized the world for the beans. We're drug addicts. Like, I say we, and sometimes Portuguese people are like, you're not allowed to say we. I was like, citizenship.
So this is big, and I'm trying to think of
just hit me.
Which section to go with. But we're talking about, Jenna was asking about the biggest transition from making pottery in the US to Portugal.
Community.
Options include.
Oh my God, there are options? Is this Jenna?
Options include.
Jenna, thank you for options. Love that.
Selling, like biggest transitions in terms of selling your work, in terms of influence, which I think we've covered influence in terms of the history of the place and all of that.
Gentrification.
Materials, which I feel like is
Jenna,
maybe a little
Portugal.
Maybe she might have been. Maybe materials might be out of scope, and you should guest on For Fleck's Sake with, speaking of Kathy King, and Matt and Rose, and go down a materials rabbit hole.
Let's just have a fun materials class. Let's chemistry.
Right? But so what I'm going to ask you with Jenna's question is, and this is an impossible question, but with the differences, because I think what we have touched upon a little bit that people may or may not have heard in our hilariousness is what we're talking about with moving to Portugal is the pros and cons of different places, right? It's not either one of us saying, oh, we're both going to move out of the US because it sucks and over here is better.
No,
you can't do that. It's just it's a pro and a con, and each of us kind of weighing, what do we want our life to look like? How do we want to spend our time?
For sure.
And culturally, what does that look like? What's the top value to build your life around, and which culture supports that? That's me putting my stuff on.
I can do all of the above quickly. You're like, no, you can't. That's funny, Rebecca. How dare you? So here's the thing, Jenna. Apples and oranges, peas and carrots, Polly Bleeker's the cheese to my macaroni. Like, you can't. What did I like about Portugal? I will tell you immediately. I have never had stability. I would argue that I don't have a lot right now, or do any of us. Not even to be existential. I would just argue it. I don't have to worry about a lot of things that I had to worry in the United States. That is what affords me comfort here. Also, wine is €2 a bottle, and that it's delicious. Like, it's not like vinegar adjacent. I am motivated by beauty. I am an industrial designer. I am an enthusiastic creative. I have to be surrounded by beautiful things. I need to make beautiful things. I make salad pretty because I need it. It's what I need. Europe loves that shit. Loves it. Like, they're like, of course. And you're like, thank you. It's fun. So that is really important to say. But I don't have to think about healthcare because I pay 48% of personal income tax and 25% Social Security tax. Can you do math? Like, that's how what money? I don't know what money is, but I have social things. Like, my son has braces. Like, I don't have to think about paying for. He's going to be so handsome, and his teeth are going to be straight. I have very debilitating autoimmune diseases. Two, not just one. I'm a double winner. I don't have to think about going to the doctor. I don't think I have no perfect healthcare system. I've had really terrible things happen everywhere. I've had terrible things happen in the United States, but I don't have to fight with insurance companies, and I have a private insurance. I had a root canal yesterday.
Did you take painkillers?
No, this is just what I'm like. I'm sorry. Imagine, Ted Lasso. Have you seen this show? Y'all in the community, have you seen Ted Lasso? I had this British man in my pottery studio, and I couldn't understand why eye roll is not the word. He loved it, but that's community. Like, we didn't have to be friends, but then I watched this show, Ted Lasso. I was like, I'm a fucking golden retriever. This man is like, well, you're nice, but I'm just not a dog person. But I really want to make a chess set. And I was like, yay, chess set. So the point is, Jenna, I don't want to not be in America. That sucks. It sucks not being. Immigration sucks. Like, there's so many beautiful things about it, but it teaches you a resilience that is, like, in Portuguese, we say it doesn't kill you, it grinds you. It grinds you yes, that's immigration anywhere, any immigrant, because it's baffling. It's constantly, but why? Like, in Portugal, the first answer is no, even if it's yes. Like, you walk into a shop, do you sell coffee? There's coffee. But they'll be like, no, what do you mean by sell? Like, do you sell coffee? Like, it's a coffee. Is this a coffee? Is this a place where coffee is sold? Well, what exactly are you looking for? Coffee? It's really difficult. Like, it's difficult because it's cultural. Like, the first answer is no. And then the second answer is you had to know. Well, we don't sell coffee. Why? Because we don't? Well, why? How was I supposed to know that? Because you had to know that we don't actually sell coffee. It's just to look at. This is an example. This isn't real, but it's similar to actual events like Dragnet. Like the names are made up, but the problems are real. So, one, I am afforded a lot of social, I pay for them, but my money can pay for them. There is a dignity to having enough. There's enough here. I never felt like I had enough in the United States. I did go to therapy. I did do therapy, like to make sure it wasn't just me, but I just I felt like I hit every hurdle every time, no matter what I did. I just hit a hurdle, and something was hard. It was just always very stressful. I don't have that anymore. I have a lot of other stress, but I don't have that. That makes me happy. I have a lot less violence in my life here. That makes me really happy. Now, I do have a privatized postal system. It's detrimental to my business. So does Joy sell? You have, maybe Jenna, you went to my Instagram and you're like, well, where does she sell this? In Portugal. Why? Because it's Portugal. And we had a world economic crisis and we sold our electric company, our postal service, and our ports, scary, to foreign entities, also our roads, because we paid off our bailout. I don't suggest doing that. 10 out of 10 do not recommend. I would recommend not paying the bill, but we decided to be the good students and we paid the bill, and austerity hasn't ended, and it's very, so that's my stress. Did you just hear it, Jen? That's my stress, okay? Because I don't know how my children are going to be able to carve out a life here that I've been able to carve out. And that sucks, which means then they have to immigrate. There is not one family in Portugal that is not touched by immigration. Not one. 100% of families have to send someone away. So when I first moved to Portugal, I was like, what are you doing here? We want to go there. I was like, ooh, that's cute. I know why. It's lovely. Have you tried the wine? We might just want to stay here and drink the wine. I mean, we don't have a lot, but we say here, small salary, big life. And that is true. Access to resources. A lot of things in Portugal are regulated, which I think is true. I have never been so spoiled in my life as living in America with all the amount of poison I could purchase. Poison! I could just buy it.
I mean, and by poison, you also mean like a leaf.
Chemical.
Like we can get
chemicals. You can buy them. I can't buy all of them. I can't get them. I can't make my own.
Are you talking?
Yeah, I can buy some.
Oh, for
regulation. So a lot of chemicals are regulated and they have to only go to a certified chemical engineering lab. And then the glaze has to be made by a certified chemical engineer. All of these people require like living wages and nice things. No, enjoy all your glaze chemicals. And no, I'm not going to go to France or Holland and drive them over the border because I do not want to get deported when I piss someone off. Because as Rebecca knows, I can piss you off. I'm not the nicest lady. My name is Joy, but you could just switch that out and call me something else. I'm a troublemaker. I got opinions. I'm a foreigner, and I don't know how to stop talking. At 1 o'clock in the morning, I have the same amount of energy as 9 a.m. I'm a squirrel. I got problems.
It's impressive. It's really impressive, actually.
Kind of. She's like, I want to go home. I am home, but I want to leave. I want this call to end. She's like, but maybe I don't. Because maybe I can get 3 podcasts out of this. So Jenna.
I have conflicting emotions.
Oh, honey. You know, that's not going to hurt my feelings because same. It's me. I live in this body. I get it.
Do you think, and this is an impossible question.
Jenna, no community. No one hangs out. No one wants to talk. Everybody thinks you're going to steal their shit or they're going to steal your shit. And there's so many people putting their thumbs and making pinch pots and calling themselves. They're teaching classes, haven't taken half a class, and then they match my pricing. Jenna, they match my pricing. They price it higher.
I don't think that's a Portugal specific thing. I was talking to somebody the other day who I was saying how I'm seeing in ceramics what happened in photography over a decade ago. When I was the newbie, when I was the 20-something girl coming in going, I have a camera and I love my job so much. And the actual master photographers were like, fuck you. And I see that because of the rise of the popularity of the craft, because that happened 10, 15 years ago in photography when digital cameras started becoming cheaper. now, maybe with COVID and TikTok and ceramic videos, whatever it was, that was the impetus of pottery becoming such a thing. The same thing is happening. And I don't like the teaching thing. I don't feel like that's Portugal specific. It's just like the popularity of ceramics at large, where people are genuinely excited. Some people mean well, other people don't. But that's humanity at large, who are like, oh, well, I love this thing. I want more people to love it like I do. And I know a little bit more than they do, so I'm going to teach it.
I mean, I know. So I had this I had this dynamic in front of me the whole time, but it's all about maturing, and age and maturity are not, I mean, they're not comorbid. I mean, we all know somebody, we're like, really? And I come across like a flibberty gibbet, don't get me wrong, but I'm real mature and worked hard on it. And I look back and I don't cringe. I know exactly who I was then, and I know exactly who I am now. That's my superpower. I was this annoying person who didn't really have an identity crisis. I did a little, but let's move on. It was goth. And then I just went punk and it was fine. So, yay, me. But I was that asshole. I was running this pottery studio. My academic mentors were like, that should be to the faculty grad student husband who went to Alfred. Why do you have that job? I give great interview, contrary to what Rebecca's going through. I give great interview. That's why I have the job, because I walked in with an exact plan. This is how I'm going to grow it. I'm going to start a biannual pottery sale. That's going to generate more money. We're going to renovate the studio. We're going to do these specific. I mean, I was like, you give me this job, you're not going to regret it. And they didn't. But that killed my academic career. And I didn't get it the whole time. I was like, why doesn't anybody like me? I don't need you to like me. I've always had that. I don't need you to like me, but I will think about it at 1:00 in the morning when I'm like, maybe Rebecca doesn't like me. I mean, because I'm a human. I'm not like a cyborg. Do you know what I mean? But so I was, and I have those 22-year-olds now coming in. Maybe I could, do you want to join my WhatsApp group where we field questions? No. Because I know the answers to your questions. So that's what I'll be proprietary about. I will be proprietary about my expertise. It will be very proprietary about my intellectual property. I will be proprietary about the fact that pay me. You don't want to take my pottery class? I will drive to your ass. It's more expensive. I mean, pay, you have to, because that's my day job. Jenna, I want to sell my pots. I don't think you want to pay the shipping. Jenna, I'm from Indiana. Yeah. I mean, the brickyard was down the street from my house. My first wheel, a man bought me. I thought he loved me. That man broke my heart. He broke up with me the next day. He pitied me. He bought me a Brint off the fucking showroom floor. That puce Brint. Y'all got black ones. How dare you? I had a puce one. Off the showroom floor. It was going to be the rest of my life wheel. And he was like, I'm going to break your heart. So let me give you something for the rest of your life. Thank you. Also, what? I'm very grateful for that. That's a privilege. I had this beautiful wheel I worked on. I fucking sold that. Things come, things go. But when things are proprietary, when things only exist within a factory system, what is a hobby? Pottery community. It doesn't exist, because that factory is going to rip you off next. Literally, I know them. I've had factories come up to me. They're like, we don't have a designer on staff. And I was like, yeah, I know. Because you don't want to pay for us. And also, why don't you just keep ripping off everybody on the internet? It's working out for you really well. Yeah, you like your pots and home goods? I can tell you who made those pots. I know them. I respect the maker because he has a salary. I do not respect the owner who's knocking off my friends' pots or knocking off people who I respect. Oh, and I'll knock on their door like, no, careful. And it's a weird way. It's a weird place to be in. It's when you turn something over that says made in Portugal, I know where that's made. It's weird coming from a country where you don't think about where things are made. Do you like your shoes? They might have been made in my town. Yeezus were made in my town. Loewe is made in my town. Hermes scarves are hand-felled in my town by my friends. Like, we make here. So there's this huge culture, which is very similar to Italy. You have these huge making cities full of manufacturing. Quality, amazing work. No one designs there. They don't know where the design comes from because they're just making a living. It's not the maker. The ethics are in the company, which we all know that it's something universal. But when you really get down to it, and you're like, y'all know they got wave sweaters right now at the farmer's market. Anybody gonna go? You want some Egyptian cotton sheets? Well, they had some extras. It's a weird world that we live in. But I can tell you that you're not going to think my friends make a living wage. And I know what I charge for what I do. I sell it here. I don't make my international price. I don't live internationally. I would like to. It's something I will scale into, but community is important to me. I live here. My children are from here. I don't have American children. I'm the only American that lives in my house. I have incredibly European children. Once I asked my son, who was wearing a t-shirt, what was on his t-shirt, he said it was a bird. It was a football helmet, and I don't mean soccer. I don't mean it. I am a weirdo. I'm a cowbird. I was put in someone else's nest, and I've pushed other people out to be here. And the only reason I'm here is because I didn't give up, because everybody underestimated me. Everybody told me I wasn't the talented one. Everybody's like, why are you here? Because I am. And I did have taken a lot of things personally, but I do my best not to do that so much anymore. And I just keep going. I'm not for everybody. My art, I don't make people like, do you take commissions? I'm like, very special circumstances. Otherwise, no. I make what I want to make because I'm fuck you 44, Rebecca. And I'm done. Fuck you 44. And I'm done making other people's stuff. It's my turn. So I run a community pottery studio so that I can make whatever I want because I don't have to make a dime selling my pots. That is a privilege. That is a job. It's my day job. My day job is I will help you on this clay journey. People think that clay will fix their life. It is an epidemic. Anybody who's touched clay feels a kinship to it because of what we talked about earlier. We've all done it. Epigenetics is real. It's not woo-woo, hippy-dippy bullshit. It's actually real. Clay lives in all of us. We've all done it. Now, if you hate it, like texturally, cool, move on. Do something else. Knit. I'd rather die than knit. It makes me itch. Makes me want to smoke cigarettes. I haven't smoked cigarettes since 2003. I'm not going to do that right now. Okay? I can't do it. Don't make me knit. But my daughter wants me. I don't want to talk about it. The point is, what I want to talk about is clay won't fix your problem. Clay will only give you more problems. It's true. Because clay is a constant problem-solving game. I don't need to do a puzzle. I don't need to do a crossword puzzle. I don't need to do Sudoku, whatever that is. I'm dyslexic. That makes no sense to me. People are like, no. I have to go like, why did that crawl? Why did that crack? What was it? This is amazing. How do I know what I want to make. I do not have access to the chemicals. So let me read literally every single industrial glaze chemical list until I find the glazes that material problems. I can't import Amico underglazes because the import tax is so high that I could never price my work to be affordable even in the outer region, the hinterlands of the internet. I can't import tools. I have to work with ridiculously mediocre shit or make my own tool or make my own glaze or pay a chemical engineer and literally hand her everything I'm capable of doing. But she has a certified chemical engineer and that's going to be ridiculously more money, but I have to do it because I could drive to the Netherlands. Gas is about $8 a gallon in Europe. My zone managed, more or less. It's like,
yeah, the conversion's complicated.
It's 95 a liter.
Somebody else do the math. Google the math from liter to gallon.
It's 1:10 a.m. So I'm not here to do the Google search, but I did some.
Do you think, because this is something I think about a lot, goes back to that whole concept of pros and cons, because I do think anybody who hasn't spent time out of the U.S. definitely is either going to be shocked to hear or has never thought of how quickly and easily we get access to resources.
Oh my
here.
God.
Like blink of an eye.
Thank you for saying that.
At the same time, do you think you would ever have been able to open a community studio if you were still here?
Yeah. Or I would end up running somebody else's for a long time and then saved up the money and found a little corner somewhere. That kind of bug. Been a studio potter, or I would have done it long enough that I would have built up my career. I would have built up my making. I mean, because I gave up. I didn't give up. I want to restate that. I didn't give up anything. I invested things differently. I'm a human, and I mean, I know my peers, and I know that we studied at the same time, and I know I've always been watching. I'm a little voyeur. I've always been lurking in the corner. Like, I promise I exist, but not in a creepy way, in a fan way. Like, oh, you're making something so great. That's so beautiful. Like, feed the beast. I started over at 30. Most people start at some point. I started over. And then I got really sick. And then I had to take 4 years. I had a 4-year health crisis. So that puts a lot of shit in perspective. Like, I'm sick. I can't do anything but heal. And it might not happen, or I might get sick again. And a lot of people face that. Health is a crown that the well wear, that only the ill can see. It's huge, especially when you use your body to make your art. Some people can make their art theoretically, but we make the art with our body. We pay with our body, no matter how careful we are, no matter what kind of respirator we're using. We do. We just got to own it, and we do. It's worth it. It's worth it to us. We're like ballerinas. You know what I mean? We're gonna crumple. And it's going to be great.
But we get to eat a lot more carbs. Just
oh my God, carbs.
Important delineation.
But I think it's really important that I sit back and I'm like, when I'm feeling low, I never think I made a wrong choice. I am successful. You don't need to know my name. I am successful. I am building a beautiful life. The only person I need to feel successful is myself. I need to know that I have success. I set a goal and meet my goal. That is success. Success used to be getting the blanket off of me to get out of my bed. So every day, and I'm not trying to be one of those people that's like, buck up, buttercup. No, fucking sit in the hurt. It sucks. Everything sucks. Life is hard. When you stub your toe on the best day of your life, you bounce around that room and you laugh about it. But when you stub your toe on the worst day of your life, it kills you. It cripples you. You're on the floor. You're crying. It's the end. Pain is emotional. Emotion is painful. This life is hard. And when you're like, that hurts, it does. It does hurt you. And our job, we're alchemists. I don't know why people thought that brass into gold or bronze into gold was a better idea. We already figured it the hell out. We figured it out. We turn mud into stone. And when we turn a mineral in, it's called clay, into a product called ceramic. But it metamorphosizes. It literally changes. It cannot return back to what it was. That's cool. That's so cool. And we get to make it whatever we want. And sometimes it says live, laugh, love. And that's also okay. That is okay. I don't gotta like it. But you know what? My mom would love that. She put it in her kitchen.
I was not prepared.
But it's true, Rebecca. We need to be honest with ourselves. And the only person I got to prove anything to is me. And I think you're fabulous. And I'm real happy that we're here. And I hope that Jenna likes my explanation, that I'd love to ship her a pot. But Jesus, I don't want to even think about that she would choose between groceries and sending something to her house. I have sent things. No one's happy when I do it. I mean, they love it, but then they're like, what the? And I'm like, Portugal. And it's not, I don't have Amazon. It doesn't exist. It doesn't make sense to me that you can order something and then like in an hour and a half we just got Uber Eats and I still think it's weird because I got ruined. I left and I got out of the hat. I don't have that muscle. I don't have that thing. But you know what I can do? I can just sit here and just be in awe that we are stardust and that we live on this flaming ball of gas and surrounded by ocean and molten lava, and the tides make things. Oh my God, I am nothing, but I'm a bit of something, and my bit of something will stay. And I don't mean my children; they're very nice. They eat a lot and they're happy. I mean, I leave a bit of a mark because I know how to make something that will last 5,000 years, and only know it will last 5,000 years because we don't really have written record for before we made this thing. So it's only going to get older. And you don't need to know that I made it. I did. Yay. Yay me. And that makes me feel happy. And I love making good stuff and having a good talk, good chat, having a lovely dinner. That's why I love living in Europe. Frankly, it's for the food. It's the dinner party. Because Rebecca comes to Europe, so she knows like dinner's at 7:30. You're not eating until about 8:95. I mean 8:45, but it's like 8:95. It's more like 9:30, 10. And then you don't leave until 2:00 in the morning, 3:00. Rebecca's like, why are you awake? Well, it's dinner party time, Rebecca.
That's true. I didn't know if that was just a Spain thing, if that translated over to Portugal. See, I'm not going to make assumptions.
Spain eats at 10, which is awful. So like we eat at like 8, but then we eat the entire time from 8 until 2:00 in the morning. And we've talked and we've solved all the world's problems. We talk about politics without being rude. And I can have a differing opinion. We can have discord. And it's only if you choose not to listen, if you choose not to hear me, I will hear you. You have to hear me. And if you just are closed off and you just want to be you just want to be heard, well, then you're just not the best dinner party guest and you're not going to get my risotto again. Clive, how dare you? And I don't need anything else. I'm not a big TV watcher. I love a book. I like a walk. I like sitting at a coffee shop for 45 minutes when I drank a thimble of coffee. But because I like the unhurried life. I like time off. I get to have this country affords me 4 weeks in the summer and more national holidays than anybody I've ever met. And I'm not mad. I think the French win, but God bless, it's not a competition. And I get to have...
Oh, it might be for the French.
Well, I ain't French. Chevrolet Coupe is the amount of French I speak.
We're going to have to look up the national holidays between France, Italy, and Portugal because it's going to be real close. It's going to be real. But it's what I hear in that for me is like finding the place. It's like looking for colleges. Nobody before you went to school, nobody could really you would read about a place, you would get pamphlets in the mail. But you couldn't figure, and you could like put out this pros and cons list on paper to be like, oh, well, this professor teaches here, or I want to study this, or they're known for that. But you couldn't figure it out until you showed up and you went, and it wasn't anything to do with what you had researched, what you had written down. You just showed up to the place and went, it's not for me.
Yeah.
Or you showed up and went, oh, yeah, this is where I'm going. Yeah. And then you had to be like, yeah, mom and dad, by the way, this is where I'm going, even though Chicago scares you a little bit. And even though you have no idea, oh, my God, this is going to be nuts. But this is where I'm going.
I hope they're so proud of you. Yeah, I love that.
They're great. They're wonderful. But it was like one of those things where it's like, even when you showed up to a place and it was like your best friend was like, why would you want to go here? And it was the first time the two of you were like doing something different, right? That to me is what I think about with countries and culture.
Right.
Of like, one is not better than the other. You know, in University of Indiana was not any better than DePaul, but it just what suited.
I already lived there. Yeah, exactly. It was like, well, here, circumstance. And that's, I think that's the beautiful things of life. I had someone once want to put me in my place. A lot of people want to put me in my place, Rebecca, and I understand why. Because I'm a busybody, know-it-all since birth. And I'm like, well, I'm sorry, my place isn't here, but thank you. I'm going to move on. This person wanted to put me in my place, and they were like, well, what are you going to do? I was 25. Said, well, I'm going to have a baby, which I did, and I'm going to move to Europe, and I'm going to open a community pottery studio, and I'm going to be happy. And he said, so why would I waste my time on you if you're not going to be an academic, like in the higher education? You're not going to. I was like, oh, great. Well, then I won't make you waste your time on me because I'm not a waste of time. This community isn't a waste of time. This podcast isn't a waste of time. That's the difference between academics, competition, pedigree, and community. That mutt is better suited to a life than a pedigree dog that can't breathe or, that has like that special health condition or like cannot digest and like no judgment. We say in Portuguese, eu sou flor de estufa. I am a hot house flower. I'm a greenhouse flower. Like, I am not, my body is a dumpster fire. Like, I am specific. Like, I need a little bit of extra. I need orthopedic shoes. I need orthopedic shoes to get through my day. And so I understand I'm not going to pull the plow, but goddamn, am I going to make the pot that you drank, the wine? I'm gonna make the pot, or I'm gonna make the dinner, or I'm gonna do something. But this world isn't. People are mean. People need to feel big. I feel big all the time, but I don't need a big life. I need my life. And so if I never sell a pot, I get rejected to more things than I get accepted. It's not normal that I'm like, hey, I have something interesting to say. And someone says, okay, Tuesday. And I'm like, are you sure that the time zones are okay? And you're like, it is, I promise, if you just click next. And I was like, I was just thinking about your feelings before my feelings because I am weird. But it's fine. I'm still going to apply because the answer has to be yes sometimes. And someone's going to get that scholarship, or someone's going to get that residency, and someone's going to get it. Might as well be me. And if it's me, I'll be kind and grateful and do my job and do my part. And that's the beauty of community. That's the beauty of pottery schools. That's the beauty of residency programs. That's the beauty of asking the question. So you come in at me with respect, I will answer your question. If you don't, I'll be like, my class costs this much money. My class, where you'll learn that, costs this. I've had students where I have to say every class, would you like to tell me how to do this, or would you like to learn how to do this? And they can give me the opposite answer. It's not going to hurt my feelings. I will just then let them tell and just not pay attention while they feel bigger. Because a lot of this world is just trying to feel bigger because it's hard. It's so hard. And what we do is really hard, and it's misunderstood. It's not respected. Even when you live in like Mecca, in a big community, because somebody does it different. That copper red looks so much better, or my gas reduction kiln, or I have made 3 major pottery mistakes in my life, and 2 of them were like full other people's kilns, because I've always worked in community. And I have to go to bed. My kiln's on. I got other people's work in my kiln. I got some of my work. No, wait. It doesn't matter. The point is everybody else's work pays for my work, so it's okay. And I can really make this crusty, crunchy pots that looks like the granite wall that holds up the brothel, which is my now pottery studio. Atelier Retiro, Centro Histórico de Guimarães. And I hit all my deliverables. And what I haven't told you is I've just rented a solo pottery studio on the same street as my community pottery studio. So I am opening a little gallery of my own work and my community's work. And I get to, let my community, now that it has grown in 3 years, so opened in 2020 by myself, then because of the pandemic. And then I grew it with students. And I have currently 7 active pottery members that pay monthly. I have classes of 5 students at a time because I have 5 pottery wheels. And if I had more pottery wheels, I could have more students, but I don't really think the space would expand that much. So by my leaving, I will make room for 4 of the people on the wait list to become monthly members to have memberships. And that will pay for my space. And then I have a little space where people don't touch my stuff anymore. And I don't mind that they touch my stuff because they touch it exactly the way I said that they should. And it is with consent and respect. Ding. But it took 3 years. And before that, it took 10 years. It could have happened faster. But I don't have a single loan, and everything I own is mine. And it wasn't built in good times. And that doesn't make it better. Just like, what's better, America or Portugal? I don't think that's a fair question. Like, what's better?
That's
Coke or Pepsi? Coke. Obviously. Coca-Cola. What is wrong with you? Who hurt you? Pepsi drinkers.
The question I was going to ask you is it pop or soda?
Oh, God damn, it's a pop. How dare you? But nobody knows what I'm saying. I can't be, or like, if you're in the Carolinas or if you're below the Mason-Dixon line, it's what kind of Coke you want? What kind of Coke? What kind of Coke you want?
Is that like regular dieters?
No,
Coke
just
Zero?
no, it's like Sprite, Pepsi, root beer. What kind of Coke you want? What kind of Coke you want? But I think here I have to say refrigerante, which is Portuguese for soda. There is a soda named after me. Thanks. It's called Joy. You're welcome. It's spelled wrong. But yeah, I have learned to say soda. It hurts. But when I go home, which is not often, it's an ale 81 from Winchester, Kentucky. Thank you. It's a high octane caffeinated ginger ale. How dare you not know? It done good. Anyway, anyone from the region is gonna be like, yes, the community speaks. And thank y'all for coming on over to the Instagram page and saying hi. That's been real. I'm like, hi, you person?
I'm telling you, people have heard me go on and on and on about our community members. They're good people. They're great people.
This is my clap.
Thank you.
Thank you. Like, congratulations, because I build community and I know how difficult it is. And it's very naked in the streets to say, we can have a good thing if you trust me. And a lot of things have to have a monetization so that the trust is, it sucks. I mean, we'd like.
It's not even the trust part. It's the monetization piece. It's the keep showing up.
That's
part,
the hardest part.
Right? If it's totally free, as much as like from a value standpoint, it's so important it needs to be free. At the same time, if you pay for something, you still show up to it.
Gym membership. I'm going to go to my trainer because I pay my trainer. It's the same. I'm your trainer. I'm your art trainer. I'm your clay trainer. I'm like, why don't we talk about this? Do you want a demo on that? You can schedule my time. This is my time. If you pay, you can invite the entire community to come to your demo and they'll be real happy. And then the next time they'll invite you. It's all of these little incentive programs that's like, yeah, you're right. It can't be free. God, wouldn't it be great if we could just barter, if we could go back to the way that we imagine romantically that it was, but was it? We don't know.
Minus the whole, like, we get to choose who we marry part and the, feminism. And,
my God. People ask me all the time. They're like, what time would you like to live? Now. I love modern medicine. I don't think y'all understand. And if you're doing fine without it, God bless. Oh my God, I love modern medicine. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. It's just the most. I do not want to go any further back because my trajectory would be bleak.
It is fitting that I'm going to forcibly that you mentioned modern medicine when this entire conversation started because you emailed me about healthcare.
Every episode, you make fun of it because you're consistent, Rebecca.
It's either that or Instagram. It comes.
But like, do you know what the things I kickstart? You want to know the things I kickstart? Oh, I'm a potter. I cut off my hand. I cut off my finger. I was in a car accident. Like, I will not fund your vacation. But if you tell me that you're not feeling well, I'm like, how can I help you? I have these 3 peanuts and unpopped popcorn and a dream.
I remember the first time Francesco saw somebody sharing an Instagram to someone's GoFundMe or whatever it was for a health crisis, for an unexpected health situation. And it was like does not compute.
I was uninsurable due to a pre-existing condition, even when I left America. Now, I know that is no longer the case, but that doesn't mean you don't have to jump there. So like any bureaucratic thing that I have to go through living in Portugal, I don't have to be sick and fill out a form. Those forms are filled out for me. Why? I am sick. I need care. I don't have to fill out a piece of paper and say that my grandma had diabetes. I don't have to do that. It's a different system. But I will, like, literally, I have to pay a tax. I have to pay an accountant. It's by law. I cannot do my own. Thank God. I cannot do my own accountancy. I have to pay, by law, as a business owner, I have to pay an accountant. And if I don't, I get a fine. Okay, so bureaucracy, right? Everything's done differently.
I was yesterday years old when I found out that you were not allowed to do your own taxes in Europe because I am currently doing our taxes with the help of a CPA who I love and adore. Thank you so much, Terry. But Francesco, because I was saying something like, I'm coming downstairs from my office like, oh my God. And I'm like, whenever we move, you have to do all of this. And he's like, okay.
When are you moving? When are we hanging out? When are we doing international pottery residencies at my community pottery studio, which will be
No
year
idea
5? I'm
yet.
just saying, take your time.
We'll come to you, but I have no idea when. But so we've always said he has to do obviously all of the bureaucracy and the paperwork and the taxes and the things if and whenever we're in Italy. And I was only just found out yesterday that him saying that was like, wait, what do you mean we can't, you won't? What? You agreed to this swap because you won't have to do it.
You would think it would be that simple. Oh, but Rebecca, my darling, my dear, my favorite. That's cute. There's no accountability, so he will have to do the checking of everything. If your accountant, I don't know, Italy's different than Portugal. We can't make this is why it's a union of independent countries. In Portugal, your accountant can make a mistake. Guess whose mistake that is? Yours. Guess who pays that fine? You. Guess, oh my God, how many times I'm like, I'm dyslexic with dyscalculia. How the fuck did I find this? Sir, it was my doctor, personal assistant, husband, handsomeness. But I will claim it because I made sure he did it. And I'm baffled that you made this mistake because that would have cost me basically my entire profit margin for the last quarter, which wasn't a lot, but was enough that it would be detrimental. So I'm with you, but there is no free lunch. We say in Portuguese, nunca foi fácil. Nothing is easy. So when somebody's like, how do I, this is so Clay, like when the student comes up and they're like, what's the No, like I don't have that in me. Nunca foi fácil. Nothing is easy. Absolutely zero is easy. What is the none of it? But if I want, what's the nothing? Like I don't even let people, and you can tell you've tried to interview me and I haven't stopped talking for hours. So I imagine it has not been easy. And you have my condolences. Sympathy.
Well,
but I will like absolutely not dismantle that belief system. Nunca foi fácil. But it's all of life. Like I found the love of my life at 23. We're really well suited. And he looks like a movie star. I'm not lying. He's handsome. But what the fuck? It's the most off. Like he's not smarter than me. Absolute. It's baffling how difficult it is. But yet, if I accidentally see him, like by accident, we don't live in a big city. So like if I pass him in the street or he pops in, I get weird and awkward. I'm like, oh my, I don't know what to do. Like I'm like a teenager because he's so wonderful and I love him so much, but I also want to throttle him within an inch. And it's the same because why? Nunca foi fácil. I don't think if it was easy, we'd all die. We just give up. Now, I don't mean that. It makes me feel warm and safe at night that it's just difficult for everybody. So just keep going. Don't stop. Because if you can't stop. When you're going through hell, the last thing you should do is stop because then you're in it and you're stuck and you're in hell. Just go. Get out of it. Keep going. And it can be years and it can be difficult, especially in clay. Why is that happening? Because it's happening. Why can't I get? Because that's the thing. Why is it is? It's difficult and it's hard. And people want me to only make one thing. That sucks. Yeah, I know what that's like. If one more person says to me, do you know what I would really like? I do. It's probably a chunky handled maximalist coffee mug with checkers or cherries. And the handle is like complete coil. So it physically, you can not hold it. So it hurts. So you have to hug it because you're chilly and it's cold. Or like a spoon rest. Tell me you want a spoon rest. I bet you do.
I was going to go with bacon maker.
What the fuck is a bacon maker?
It's a cup on top of a plate, basically, but they're attached. It's one piece. Because I tried to tell a person.
Like a coffee pour over? I love this. I'll Google it, Rebecca. I do own the Google.
I'll show you. I'm morally opposed to microwaving bacon.
Is this like some as seen on TV shit that I'm missing?
Nope. This is just a Wisconsin thing. I think I'm bringing it back to the Midwest.
I made enough butterbells in my life to tell me to make a butterbell. You just go ahead and tell me you're never going to use it. It's going to go rancid. You're not going to use it. You can't even put your jewelry in it like a candle holder. Egg cup.
You could pour candle into it.
Ooh.
2 candles.
But I did make this one Butterbell once. It was like an acorn. It was so cute. But like also,
Joy, you got to go to sleep. You got to. You've got to go to sleep. We could go forever and it would be great, but we have to. So I'm going to make it. See, and that's the part of Europe. This is a different podcast, but that's the part I can't figure out is that everybody still gets up. Okay, there's not like the obsession with the 5 a.m. club and the bros and the tech startups. So there's not like the early risers.
doesn't exist.
But generally, there's still like, when you're staying up till 2 a.m., people are still at work at 9 or 10. There's a differential there that my body can't get through.
2-hour lunches, Rebecca. Marmita Club. Marmita means lunchbox. 2-hour lunch. 2 hours. Not 1. 2.
Yeah, but that I don't get back up from a nap.
Oh, I don't know what.
That's the problem.
Your biochemistry should be studied.
I know. I've got to train and adjust to make it work.
My children go to school from 9 to 5. Children go to school from 9 to 5. You can drop your kid off at 7 a.m. and you can pick your kid up at 7 p.m. They are at school. They are well cared for. There are 3 meals a day. Well, not 3 meals a day. There's breakfast snack, lunch snack. There's 3 recesses per day. The teachers are not there from 9 to 5. The people who work at the school are there from 9 to 5. The teachers have split schedules. Some days they're there from 9 to 5. Some days they're there from 10 to 4. Because why? Banking. You have to be able to get something done in the day. We can strike once a year, every year, just to prove our value. There's nothing taboo about striking. You're just supposed to remind people that you deserve what you get for what you do. Except in clay, you should just do it for free. You should do it for the good merit of your heart. You should donate all of your time and energy to children only. The Limoges of Portugal is cheaper than that. And I'm always like, oh, I know. It's made in a mold. Imagine a mold. Ugh. Decals. Awful.
Joy, where can I send people on the internet to find all of this?
Oh, my darlings. I'm so sorry. But please come visit me on Instagram. My name, just Joy Hanford. There's no D in Hanford except at the end. If that was confusing, it's very much reminiscent of my personality. I hope y'all had fun. Poor Rebecca. She's worried about me. That girl hasn't had a second for almost 3 hours. I'm a talker. I am a whole lot. Extra is the definition of me. So come on over to Instagram, and as everything that I'm doing evolves, I will have all that information there. I'd love to meet you on Facebook, but I'm a little bit traumatized by Facebook. There's nothing against Facebook, but I can't do everything. Social media is a job. So if you have someone who's killing it on social media, I just would like you to know that I'm doing that 2 hours a day, 6 days a week. I give myself a day off. Thank you. It's Fridays, but 6 days a week, 2 hours a day, I'm on the socials, building my community. And if you're ever in Portugal, specifically in the north of Portugal, I'm in a little place called Guimarães. It's absolutely super fabulous. Most people come for the day. You can go for as long as you want. You come on in my pottery studio. I'll give you a cup of tea. I'll give you a hug, and I'll probably just be real happy to see you. Y'all are invited. Ruda Retido. My community pottery studio is called Atelier Retido. Retido means refuge. It's like a little calm in the storm. It's like a place that would be built and just exist for when you need it. Come on down.
We obviously end every single episode with the social media information of our guests because it can be such a powerful way to connect all of us from all over the world. At the same time, I think the greatest danger of it is the potential ability to rob us of our own successes. In fact, I might just print out what Joy said at the end there. I set a goal, I met a goal, that is success. To remind myself, as she pointed out, the only person we need to define success for is ourselves. But when we start perusing the internet, kind of mindlessly scrolling, even without meaning to, we can start comparing our original definition of success for our own lives to someone else's perceived definition of success. And in that moment, subconsciously or otherwise, something gets stolen, for lack of a better phrase. I know it's happened to me a million times in photography, and frankly, that's probably a huge part of why I needed to step away from events for a while. But anyway, we don't need to hear more about me in the photography industry. Except, perhaps, if it's in the context of how the photography events industry has taught me to take photos fast and in ever-changing, very less than ideal environments. Does that sound familiar? That's right, my friends. I credit the crazy world of events exactly with the way that I teach photography specifically for potters and makers. Because I'm assuming you don't necessarily have access to a perfect product photography studio complete with heaps of fancy photographic equipment either. To be honest, I have never had that kind of studio. So the way I teach is built on using what you've got. Or at the very least, what you can get with a quick trip to the local hardware store, no matter where in the world you live. Because I have taught these same things in Australia, where I learned just how much more expensive paint is than it is here in the US, but we still figured it out. Anyway, the point is that you can get a taste for my teaching style while also getting the solutions to the 4 most common Instagram photography mistakes I see artists making online by joining the free live webinar I'm hosting next week. Actually, it's only 4 days from the time that this episode airs on June 11th and 12th. I know this episode is already going long, so there are a ton more details to read up on, as well as reserve your spot by visiting makersplaybook.com/Instagram-photography. Today's episode is brought to you by the Rosenfield Collection of Functional Ceramic Art. The collection exists as an online source for research and inspiration, featuring photos of objects made by over 1,000 artists. The images are high quality and can be used with no permission required, making them a great source for students and teachers. To find out more, visit www.rosenfieldcollection.com. A special thank you to the Archie Bray Foundation for sponsoring this episode of the Maker's Playbook. The Bray Clay business is your best source for Bray Epoxy, a 2-part moldable epoxy intended for post-firing repairs. Working like clay, it's easy to shape, texture, fill gaps, and recreate missing parts. Bray Epoxy is sold in tan, white, and black base colors, with a 9-color kit that will allow you to perfectly disguise your repair. Order anytime online at archiebrayclay.com. Audio post-production of this podcast is made possible by help from Christy Kotzfan, with promotional material assistance from Queenie Maliki. The Maker's Playbook podcast is recorded on the original homelands of the Potawatomi, Ho-Chunk, and Menominee people, where the people of Wisconsin's sovereign Anishinaabe, Ho-Chunk, Menominee, Oneida, and Mohican nations remain present. Until next time, my friends, go get back to making your dreams a reality. Because together, we've got this.
This podcast is a production of the Brickyard Network, an extension of the Archie Bray Foundation for the Ceramic Arts. To find out more about our lineup of ceramic podcasts, visit brickyardnetwork.org.